I always ask myself, what if? And I have set myself some really big goals over the years. What if I could be the first to get my HSC? What if I could be the first to go to university? I studied at university whilst working full-time, whilst raising my 2 young kids. And I remember not feeling confident. And, we all deserve a champion. And it was years later, I remember thinking, I don't know if I can do this. So I emailed my trusted old teacher from years ago, Miss Burgess. Hey, I didn't get to go straight to uni, after I finished school. I went through some other challenges, and I was pregnant at 18, had my son at 19, went on and actually worked for Aboriginal Affairs, which was a little bit of a miracle moment there, and worked for St George Bank for 6 years, but I always knew that I wanted to be a teacher. I wholeheartedly say that education changed my life. I live a life of freedom and choice because of what education's done for me. What if is something that I continue to ask myself, and particularly with the young people that I work with, I always say, well, what if? What if you try, and what if things do work out? And I also say this to all the adults as well. After working towards a career in education, studied, got my teaching degree, the email that I sent to Miss Burgess was, I'm now working full time. I've got 2 young kids. I still want to become a teacher. Do you think I could do it? And she sent me back a one-liner that pretty much said, of course you can, you're smart. So I was like, oh, she says I can do it. So I've always, really had that growth mindset, and really try to inspire our young people to also believe in themselves. I always wanted to use my adversities and my grief to make a difference, and I guess that's how I want to be remembered. And I ask myself that all the time. And I ask each and every one of you here as well, think about how you want to be remembered. I want to be remembered as someone who was brave, someone who was resilient, someone who never gave up. So after my career, I worked for St George Bank for many years as well, really quickly getting back to that yarn. I was helping so many people get home loans. I was promoted to a specialist position. I didn't know that Aboriginal people could actually buy their own home. I dreamt about maybe getting a housing commission place that might be a house with a yard instead of a block of units like I lived in Waterloo. But one thing that I dreamt of when I was working there was seeing myself on the other side of that counter and coming back one day and applying for a home loan. So I did that in 2009. I went back with my little kids as a single mum, and I bought my own house, and I've gone on to achieve many, many things that were kind of my big unachievable goals. This is my first year in business. I worked my way through education. I became a teacher. I taught in schools in southwest Sydney. I led an Aboriginal education team supporting the improvement journey of schools, supporting curriculum, working alongside principals, directors, teachers. And this what if, my role had changed. So it was the ideal job when I signed up for it. I would work with students, work with communities, work with educators. So I said this was the dream job. And then the role changed. So the community and the student side was no longer there. So I always listen deeply to my gut and think, well, what am I here, and I'm doing, what I need to be doing. So right before Christmas, I decided to step away, and this is my first year in business. So I created my own business, Dream Big Education, Wellbeing and Consultancy. And it was scary. I walked away from a really good job, but I just follow my heart. I don't actively go out chasing work. There's a beautiful quote that's out of A Course in Miracles, and it just says, where would you have me go? What would you have me do? What would you have me say, and to whom? I just want to show up and be of service, and that's what I do in my business. I create programs for young people. I take them through goal setting, vision boards, journaling. I've created 2 Dream Big journals. I take them through all the steps that I've done to help me achieve my goals. I work with teachers still. I love working with educators. I'm passionate about education. That educators, it's the most important role out there. Every child has the opportunity to be inspired by a teacher. So I do a lot of work with teachers to always see our kids when they walk through those doors, to never underestimate those important moments, particularly the moment that I had with Kathy. And it scares me to think where I would have ended up if that moment didn't happen. I went on to write this second book, which it's actually taking off right around the country and abroad. Sydney University has actually just made it mandatory for all pre-service teachers. Thank you. I wrote this with Dr. Kathy Burgess, my teacher. We are both president and vice president of the Aboriginal Studies Association. I teach her a thing or two these days as well. She thinks it's fascinating for me, like creating QR codes for our courses and all this deadly technology stuff. So I'm like, yes. And we just work really beautifully together, and it's a lovely story being Aboriginal, being a non-Aboriginal educator. She's actually, for the last 40 years, made a big difference to education. She leads the Masters in Aboriginal Educational Leadership at Sydney University. So together, we're creating these amazing masterclasses that teachers and educators right across the country are loving.